All right, guys, with all due respect to Bowling Green, and I have a lot of respect for Bowling Green, that game should not have felt the way it felt. Welcome into the TexAgs post-game wrap where Texas A&M does defeat Bowling Green 26-20. This is brought to you by Alpha Paving, an award-winning paving contractor servicing Texas, ready to deliver excellent customer service, meticulous project management, and quality workmanship for all your asphalt and concrete needs. Check them out at alphapaving.com and let them get to work for you. All right, I've got Brandon Leone on with me. I've got Chris Taylor, CT, and Chris Harrington. Guys, like sometimes I try to go on this diatribe to start the show off. I just thought, and I'll just start it like this. Props to Bowling Green for always playing teams tight, but that's not what this story. I don't think A&M came to play today the way I expected them to play. The defense got pushed around a little bit. The offensive line wasn't as assertive. Marcel Reed had some jitters, if you will. They got the W, which is great, but it just wasn't an inspiring performance. Leone, you start us off.
Yeah, man, it doesn't leave you super excited. I mean, it's happy to come away with a win, but it just feels so disappointing. I think you could just even see it on the fans' faces towards the end of the fourth quarter. Like, nobody was excited. Everybody was like, how the heck is this happening? And I think we've got to learn how to finish football games off. We had multiple opportunities throughout this game to put them away. And really, man, you think about the way that the game started. I mean, we converted 2 third downs. We converted a 4th down. And then we used the tight end and went downfield again and threw a deep ball for a touchdown. And so you felt like, oh, man, we're going to build off this momentum offensively that we showed in Florida. And then the same stuff happened, man. I'm concerned about the long-term success of this offense as we head into more talented teams. Listen, Bowling Green, I know they had some experienced guys up front. They're a well-coached team, all those things, but they don't hold a candle to what we're going to play for the rest of the season. And so that's why, for me, it's hard to come away encouraged, because our offense, we're running, across the field with Noah Thomas. We're not taking deep shots to guys that are 6'6". I just don't feel like we're being very creative with our route running, and CT can speak more to that than me. But I'm watching all these other offenses across the country be super explosive, and we're sitting there almost halftime and we have 60 yards passing, before we hit a screen, and I think we hit one to Noah Thomas. But I don't know. I don't feel super excited about our offense, and it starts to make you wonder. I don't want to be the person to start this conversation. I think Marcel looked good, and if it weren't for him running around and getting some first downs today, we probably would have been in big trouble. But the way this offense is performing as we head into like deep SEC play where these guys are super talented, I'm not so sure we're going to win a ton of games with his arm. And so that's why I think it's going to be interesting to see what we do with 15-10, because Connor Wegman can make a lot of throws that a lot of people can't make, but Marcel can create when we're not doing anything offensively. So I'm sure people are going to have a bunch of thoughts on that, and that's okay. But ultimately, I don't think that this offense is going to win big-time football games unless we make some changes. And we can't blame it on being vanilla against Bowling Green. I mean, we got people in the conference putting up 50-plus points a game and looking really good. So, anyways, that's my thoughts. I think we could look better on offense.
CT, take it from there.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon, and man, you wonder, and 3 showed flashes tonight, but where has he been? And we know he's a dynamic playmaker, and he can go up, use that 6'6" frame, and even today, I forgot he was even playing until he had a couple of catches. I believe there in the second quarter. I mean, we just seem out of sorts. We seem out of rhythm when it comes to things. And Marcel was able to create some stuff tonight with his legs to be able to extend some plays. But, like Brandon said, as we start playing those teams with a little bit better talent, and you have guys that can get after the quarterback. And I think about like South Carolina, those 2 defensive ends that they have, those things are not going to work there. And so, some of the play calling and again, I saw it too. We were very vanilla. We didn't show a whole bunch, but no disrespect to Bowling Green. We're supposed to be a dominant SEC football team, and we just didn't show that. I thought I looked at the stats after the game, and I was surprised, and I'm wondering how much of that was sack yardage and stuff along those lines. But rushing yards, 86 yards. but it felt like we were getting blown off the ball, and there were creases, and those guys were finding running lanes, and then it could have been scheme or design, but I mean, we had guys that were wide open. I mean, nobody within 7, 8, 10 yards of those guys, and so you can't expect to build off of something and be successful going into conference play now, and have those types of performances, but. It is a win. I have to put it into perspective. It goes in the left-hand column. It is a win. It wasn't pretty by any stretch, but, and even with the post game with Elko, he said, we've got a lot of stuff to work on, and that is true. And so, hopefully they can get some things cleaned up. Arkansas, I believe in Jerry's world next week, and, Arkansas hasn't looked great this year, but that game is always back and forth. So we got a lot of stuff to clean up. We've got to get more dynamic in play calling. We just don't have that killer mentality right now. And that's what I want to see this team have. I want to see this team come out, hit another team in the mouth, score as many points as you can. If they can't stop it, man, they need to practice more. That's just what it is. And that's just the nature of the game now. So I'm very interested to see what happens next week with the quarterback situation. I thought Marcel played well enough for us to get the win, but like Brandon said, Connor is able to make some of those throws that other guys can't. Do you go to a 2-quarterback system? But man, we've got a lot of stuff to clean up, and we got to do it in a short amount of time. So got the win, just don't feel great about it tonight, though.
Chris Harrington. So obviously, I'm happy they won the game. That's the most important thing, and I knew that Bowling Green would be a tough matchup, but a game that I thought A&M would comfortably win. I think my biggest issue has been the comedy of errors down the stretch, and a team that just looked uninspired at home. What was your take from tonight?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of guys got banged up front on the O-line. Basantis got banged up. Shanahan got banged up a little bit. Started the game fast. I was really excited as it got going, but then in the second quarter, nothing happened. I mean, we kicked 2 field goals. They come out the second half, they scored 2 touchdowns, and then, we finished it out. But, it was lacked some intensity for sure down the stretch. I mean, you give up a fumble, Le'Veon, there at the end. I don't know. It was a bend but don't break. I think Bowling Green had a good game plan. I think they threw everything they had at us. You see reverses, you see, trick plays. I think they threw everything they had. They threw at us tonight, and the guys stood up. I mean, they held their ground. We got through it. I mean, Ja'Day Walker, leading receiver, hadn't really seen him very much through the season. Where was Cyrus Allen? I know he's been our leading receiver, but there's yet to be a big standout. I know they're trying to get Noah in the mix. We haven't just built momentum on offense. I think outside of running game, but a good running game and a good defense can keep you in games. So we've got to figure that out. I think Marcel, didn't throw any interceptions tonight. Made some plays on his feet. He had 91 yards rushing, it looks like. So put us in position to win the game. This team could look very different next week, and I hope the guys up front, the big uglies on the O-line, can stay healthy and keep pushing through.
Brandon, I thought this was, I don't want to say the first game, because I wasn't impressed against Notre Dame offensively, obviously, and I don't think anybody was, but this game, it just didn't feel like the creative play calling that I kind of expected to see. And not that I expect them to need creative play calling against a team like Bowling Green, but how many 4th downs did they have to go for? How many third and I felt like they kept on getting in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and they had to go for it so many different times. I just thought the offense, not only was the play calling interesting, but the execution wasn't there either.
Yeah, I think it's be interesting I wish I could sit in the film room with Coach Klein and the offensive staff just to see their thoughts. I mean, if you think about it, in the first half, after we had that successful drive where we went down and scored, man, they pinned us down inside our own 11 3 times, and so we're backed up against the wall with 90+ yards or more to drive. And so you start to think maybe they're trying not to risk it with a young quarterback, but we just didn't execute. I was thinking the way we ran the football and as physical as we were against Florida, that we were just going to line up and go. And we're throwing out wide out to Noah Thomas and, on the 3-yard line. And I don't know whether it was a lack of execution or a lack of creative play calling. I don't know. But it definitely it left a lot to be desired with the offense, and so I think it's going to be critical, man. I mean, you look back to the Notre Dame game, they did finish this game, but I think it's so similar. These games played out similar, except for I think tonight we ran for over 200 yards and held them less than 100, but it was close game towards the end. Notre Dame's a more talented team, and so they ended up closing the football game. I think the only reason we were able to close the game tonight was because we just had a little bit more talent. That's why I'm concerned when we start playing against the Mizzous, the Alabamas. We don't play them. With the teams that we start to play that have more talent or equal to talent than us, it makes me concerned that we're not going to finish. And we continue to give up these explosive plays. And I think that's going to hurt us. Like Chris said, the two explosive plays, the play out of the half right in the third quarter, obviously their coach saw something that he liked, hit the corner right. You got to make that tackle if you're three. And then the reverse, but they, like Chris said, they gave their best shot to us. But think about Notre Dame again. We gave up those explosive plays. Yep. Florida, we had more explosive plays and limited theirs. And so that's been kind of the tale for me is we have got to get creative on offense. We've got to limit explosive plays and be more disciplined with our eyes on defense. But didn't feel great. I'm happy they won though, heading into Arkansas next week.
CT, obviously Marcel missed some throws. He missed some, but what did you see from the wide receivers overall? Were you seeing them get any separation? Because there were a couple plays that Marcel missed, but I still feel like the offense still was in neutral at times.
Yeah, and I don't know, if it's route combinations, if it's I'm not sure what it is, but our guys were just the separation's not there, and we're not. In the first half we were. I think I sent a message out just. I loved the motion. I loved how Colin was, there was so much eye candy in the backfield for the defense to have to try to figure out. And I mean, you had Terry Bussey in motion, and you had a run that looked like it was going to the right, but it was, you had stuff coming back to, popping out the backside. So, man, Bowling Green did a great job in that second quarter of really playing field position and giving us a long field and really backed up. But it's still, through the first, this first few games of the season, there still hasn't been a ton of separation. You don't see our guys separating from their corners. And, I don't know if you get back to running the quick game with the slants and the hitches. And, I've always been a big believer that even if you don't hit the big plays downfield, put it on tape to let defensive coordinators know that you'll take those shots. And we're talking about it again this year. Marcel goes downfield a couple of times, but where are those designed shot plays? Where are those plays where you get Noah singled up and you throw one deep? It's just, I don't know if it's play calling design. I don't know if it's route combinations or concepts. Or I don't know if we just have guys that just can't separate. They can't get off the press and can't, find room and get out of their breaks and run away from coverage. So it could be a combination of a whole bunch of different things, but needless to say, it has to get cleaned up. We've got to clean it up. We've got to find a way to start creating separation, to get guys in space, because if not, they're going to keep loading the box with 8. They're going to defend on the back end. And we're still, we're gonna struggle like we did tonight. You saw in a lot of different looks. There was an extra safety down in the box, and they were determined not to let Le'Veon get going and really have him put his stamp on the game. And so, we've got to win outside. Whatever the play is, you've got to go and win. You've got to give your quarterback an opportunity to make a play, and we just haven't done that from the wideout position, this year.
Chris Harrington, let's talk a little bit about the defensive line. 2 sacks, which is better than we've seen the last couple of weeks. I mean, there was that Shamar Stewart got through and had some big plays. There were others that were able to break through the line. It felt, even if you look at the stats, they weren't able to run the ball very effectively on A&M, but it felt like Taylor and Stewart was able to get big yards when he wanted to. What did you see from the D-line?
Yeah, I mean, I think we lost contain once that I saw. I think that was maybe number 13, backup. Defensive tackle. Bend but don't break. I mean, when you look at it, it's like 89 yards of rushing. I mean, that's a good defensive performance. It seemed like they were getting runs when they needed them, though, like to extend drives or to get a first down. You know, I think even the commentators on TV were saying, like, you know, they're having a hard time handling our defensive line, especially on the inside, and they should. I mean, we've got one of the best D lines in the country. I mean, our NIL budget is it's not even in the same like ballpark as Bowling Green. Like, you know, these are 5-star plus guys, and they should, you know, dominate on the inside. And I felt like, you know, I felt like we picked a fight in a bar with a guy that was undersized but was scrappy, and it was just a fight to the end. I mean, Ohio football, Bowling Green. I mean, you heard Elko talk about it. They're just scrappy dudes. They got a great tight end in number 0. I mean, he's great. He is a great player. He was there. I mean, they had 250 yards of passing. 145 went to him, a tight end. You know, love to have him on our squad. So, I mean, look, it wasn't pretty, but let's not get down. We need to stay healthy. And I'm concerned about how much we've been running the ball and relying on the running game. And all of a sudden you start getting some injuries up front in the O-line, and you can't do that. So hopefully those guys can get recovered this week, get healthy, and get back at it.
Let me ask you about that, because I all week long we talked about there was 2 guys that could beat you on Bowling Green, and Harold Fannin Jr. was the number 1 guy that could beat you. When you know there's one guy that can beat you, and I know they got other guys. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but he's their guy. He's the one who had 121 yards against Penn State, and you know he can't get open. How does a guy like that continuously get open? Because sometimes he was scotch-free, like nobody was around him. Anybody can take this.
If you remove that one big play, Nuño, they kept him in front of him for the most part. And I think that was the thing. If you take away those 2 plays like Chris is talking about, our defense held them to less than 250 yards. That's not a bad defensive performance. And then you also think about this. Again, man, so many of our possessions in the first half were backed up all the way in their, our own red zone. So they were getting the ball at midfield a lot of times. So as much as they didn't get that many yards, it still seemed like they were pressuring us a lot. But that's because we were having to punt the ball out of our own end zone, 2-3 times. But the defense, to me, I agree with Chris. Both the Shamars played awesome. We were forcing the quarterback to get rid of the ball quick. Take away a couple of trick plays. It's not the defense I'm concerned about, just like it wasn't the defense I was concerned about against Notre Dame. I think it's our inability to create big plays on offense consistently. And like Chris said, this is why I mentioned what I said about the quarterback. If we keep having injuries up front on the line of scrimmage, we're on our 3rd string center now. Thank God Basantis came back. If we keep getting hurt up front as we head into the meat of this conference, and we're having to depend on the run and they shut it down, and we need a quarterback that can throw the ball, that's why I'm saying I think 15. I don't know if you can close the door on him yet, because he's going to have to make some throws down the stretch if we can't run the football consistently. But I agree with Chris. The positives, we made all of our field goals. That's a big deal as we head into conference play more. We had, I think, almost half the penalties. We did run for over 200 yards again. And so those are some things that you can tell that there was some good coaching this week. Special teams got focused up, at least at the field goal. We did have a punt block, but way less penalties. And then I think my other big concern is what Harrington said, man. Gosh, we got to stay healthy. Thank God Bryce Anderson came back. I thought he was toast, and I got nervous. Basantis came back. It seems like every week we lose a critical playmaker, and I'm hoping we can stay healthy as we head into the meat of the schedule.
I shouldn't do this, CT, but let me ask you, what happens if they don't miss that field goal? How does that game play out differently? Like, let's be honest, they won by 6. It could have been 3, or they could have been trailing. They could have scored a touchdown because they were right there, to the 7-yard line?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a different ball game. And, you've always heard the term, pressure bust pipes. And so guys start playing tight and guys start getting, a little antsy. But, the defense did. They stood up. They held them to a field goal. We get a punt block down there. I think they recovered. They start from the 8. And defense forces them off, forces the field goal. They miss a 28-yard field goal. So very fortunate in that. But, for me, it's just I want to see this team excel. I want to see this team do, because you look at like the Ole Misses and even that team over in Austin. You look at how dynamic they are on offense and the things that they're doing. And, man, I don't know that we're sitting here and criticizing as much as we're more frustrated with, because we know you have the caliber of players that we have that are on this team and that are on this roster. We know what performance should be better. And so, like Chris said, man, scrappy ball club, took Penn State down to the wire, just blue collar, put your hard hat on, come to work, just grind you and make you work for a win. But man, when you're playing in front of 100,000 and you come off a performance, you finally get a road win. I want to see our guys put the newspaper clippings down, stop reading the press, and get ready and follow that good performance up with another solid performance. And I thought that we didn't take advantage of that opportunity tonight. It's still a win. We can't take that away from them, but I would have liked to see them capitalize on that opportunity from having that performance last night. Dominant, physical, a hard-nosed football team playing an SEC opponent. And I think we came out and kind of walked through it. But a win's a win, tough fought win. But we've got some work to do before we take the field next week.
Chris Harrington, if you can, just speak a little bit to how you can't look at one week to another in football, right? You beat up Florida, but that doesn't necessarily translate in football because it is about matchups. It's about a coach trying to figure out what chess piece he needs to use.
Yeah. Well, this team's got its own identity, right? And it's figuring out who they are. And last week, the game – you got a rain delay. You got to go in. You got to reset. You got wet conditions. You got, it's like every week's a new week. And this team's just figuring out who they are. And who they are is a tough-nosed defensive club that runs the ball. Nothing's going to change. We know this. We know this about this team. We got to play great defense. We got to run the ball, right? We got to get a couple explosive plays. I like to see Theo catch 2 touchdowns week over week. That's great. I don't think 84 pushed off. They said he pushed off. I think there was a couple, underthrown balls from Marcel that he's made those throws before. He wasn't 100% on his game tonight, but they find a way to win. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Enjoy this season while we're in it because it's building. I mean, it's every year and every team is unique in itself, and you got to appreciate, what this team is, and that's what I'm trying to do. So.
All right, guys, let's wrap up here. Everybody, 20 seconds, just some thoughts as we head into the week to take on Arkansas. CT, you start us off.
A win is a win. That's the biggest takeaway. We got the win. It's in the left-hand column. You watch the tape tomorrow. You flush it. You get ready for Arkansas. Get ready for SEC play because it's going to be hard fought. So got another chance to go 1-0 next week. You got to prepare, get ready for it. Flush this one after tonight.
Mr. Harrington?
Get in the cold tub if you got a hyperbaric chamber, if you got a massage therapist, if you got whatever you got, get yourself ready because there's SEC games coming and we need our big boys healthy up front. So, they got to take care of themselves, whatever it takes. Diet, rest, all of it. Do anything you got because we got a tough sledding ahead.
Brandon, you want to close this out?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm heading to Dallas with a bunch of buddies to watch the game. I think there's going to be 10 of us. Continue to minimize penalties. Keep working on discipline as a team. Continue to make all your field goals. Run for over 200 yards. Hold the other team to less than 100 yards. And I think, man, stretch the field and attack the middle of the field with our routes. I'm telling you, give these guys something besides just hitches and out routes. And I think we can see some more big plays. I love seeing Jade go across the middle, Theo. We got to stretch the field and be more creative with our route running. But go win. Go beat Arkansas. Build some momentum as we head into the rest of the season. I'm excited and happy for a win.
Brandon, CT, Chris Harrington, thank you guys very much. That's going to do it for the TexAgs post-game wrap. Brought to you by Alpha Paving. A&M does win at 26-20. Tomorrow I'll be doing a Luchador podcast with Billy Lucci and, of course, on TexAgs Live on Monday morning. We'll see you then.